Matt Kean, New South Wales has not only announced a major electric vehicles package, but the New South Wales Parliament has actually passed legislation to implement it. Could you start by running us through the sorts of considerations you had when you were putting that policy plan together, about what sort of things needed to be done to get a big uptake in electric vehicles?
Companies like Ford and General Motors are phasing out combustion engine vehicles and will be fully electric by 2030. So that means the cars that will be coming into the New South Wales market will be electric, and we need to prepare for that future. And in order to prepare for that future, there were three problems that we were trying to solve. Firstly, the price point of owning an EV. Secondly, the issue of range anxiety. And thirdly, the number of models that were available in the market.
And what measures were they?
We did a number of things. So firstly, we provided direct rebates for people who purchased EVs. We waived stamp duty to lower the price point. We've spent $170 million in charging infrastructure, which means that if you live in a densely populated area, there'll be a fast charger within 5 kilometres of your home. But if you live in the outer suburbs or in the regions, we're creating EV charging superhighways. So we're rolling out the infrastructure. We're supporting the uptake of fleet buys of electric vehicles. We know that fleets are responsible for about 50% of all new car sales, and fleets turn over vehicles once every 3 years, which means that we're catalysing the development of the second-hand market, again lowering the price point for consumers. These are the suite of policies that we've put in place, and it sees an investment of around $600 million to support the uptake and rollout of EVs in New South Wales.
You're announcing further measures, I gather, tomorrow.
That's right. We're supporting the fleet industry to purchase EVs. And as I said, that's because that will catalyse the development of the second-hand market for EVs, lowering the price point for consumers. This is part of a $600 million package to see the rollout of EVs across New South Wales, and that'll see 50% of all new cars sold in New South Wales being electric by 2030.
Well, other states are also implementing significant EV packages. What do you understand the federal government's measures announced today will do?
Well, we think the federal government's initiatives are good, but they can go a lot further. I'd encourage the federal government to be looking at doing things like providing direct support for people who want to purchase an EV. There's a range of taxes and charges that could be waived that would make EVs more accessible for families and businesses right across the country. We want to see things like the federal government investing more heavily in electric vehicle charging infrastructure. I mean, the funding that they've put on the table doesn't even match the funding that we've put here just for the state of New South Wales. But the biggest thing the federal government can do is deal with the issue of fuel standards. Australia has some of the worst fuel standards anywhere in the world. Our fuel standards are worse than China, and they're worse than India. And what that means is that Australia is becoming the dumping ground for the vehicles the rest of the world doesn't want. That's not only bad for the environment, but it means that consumers are getting less choice and they're paying more at the bowser. That's not acceptable. So there are some things the federal government can do that will improve the uptake of EVs and move people towards cleaner and better, cheaper vehicles.
Have they spoken to you about their plan and how it coordinates with yours? I mean, both of you are doing EV charging stations, for example, but I mean, how are they going to match up? And why do you think they're not doing things like the emission standards changes?
Well, they haven't spoken to me before they release the plan, but I look forward to working with Minister Taylor to ensure that we can turbocharge the rollout of EVs, not only in New South Wales, but right across the country. There are huge advantages to moving towards electric vehicles. They're fun to drive, they're cheaper to run, and they're great for the environment. So we should be embracing this new technology and ensuring that everyone who wants one is able to access them at an affordable rate.
Do you think that they've got a bit hoisted on their own political petard here? They went in so hard against electric vehicles at the 2019 election. It's a bit hard to turn around and suddenly embrace them more fully than they have, isn't it?
Well, I can't comment about their political strategy, but what I do know is that this new technology is coming whether people like it or not, and we need to be ready for the future. You can't sit by and hope for the best. You've got to put in place the policies and show the leadership required to roll that technology out at scale. That's what we're doing here in New South Wales. That's what we're working with the other states and territories on achieving, and we welcome the opportunity to work with the Commonwealth to ensure that Australians get the best deal and the best technology available.
Matt Kean, thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Laura.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.